My name is Christopher Kelly. I work for the University of Michigan Adaptive Sports and Fitness program as the program coordinator and the interim wheelchair tennis coach. So I first got introduced to wheelchair tennis because I come from a tennis-loving family, and I grew up really thinking that sport wasn't something that I could do. I was born with a physical disability, and like a lot of kids with physical disabilities, I didn't think that I held an identity as an athlete. I didn't think that sport was for me. In high school though, my dad found an adaptive sports program. He took me to my first practice, and I got in a sports chair for the first time, which you'll see a tennis chair here in a little bit, and I fell in love with the sport. So wheelchair tennis is a racket sport that's played generally on a hard court with a tennis racket, a net, and a sports wheelchair. It almost identically mirrors its able-bodied counterpart of able-bodied tennis, with one rule exception of wheelchair tennis players get 2 bounces. Yeah, absolutely. Able-bodied people can play wheelchair tennis, especially at the recreational level. You're coming out, you want to have fun, you want an opportunity to play with your peers. But one unique thing about wheelchair tennis as an adaptive sport is you can play in your wheelchair also against people who are standing up, whether they're your partner or your opponent. So you can have wheelchair tennis players and able-bodied players playing at the same time together. Through the Adaptive Sports and Inclusive Recreation Initiative, you're going to be able to learn a lot of really cool adaptive sports. We always say, if you can sit, you can play, and we truly mean that, and we want opportunities for kids, regardless of your status as a person with or without a disability, to be able to engage in these adaptive sports and have a fun time with your peers. So really, tennis is a fun sport where you can play it anywhere as long as you have a racket and a ball. You can play against your garage door, you can play in your street with like a pop-up net or with a string. If you want to play traditional tennis, you can go to a local community park, you can go to a tennis club. If you want to play at a competitive level, there are tournaments all around the United States. Wheelchair tennis is also seen as one of the most professionalized sports in parasport. You can play at the Paralympics, you can play professional wheelchair tennis where you're making quite a bit of money at tournaments, but if you want to go to the best place that you can ever play wheelchair tennis, it's here at the University of Michigan. So to play wheelchair tennis, one of the most important skills you need is chair movement. So you need to know how to get your chair where it needs to go to be able to hit a good shot. Depending on your disability, there are various levels of function, but you ideally want to have some usage of your upper extremities so that you can swing and hit the ball with a good amount of force and power. So a lot of times, especially if you're getting into wheelchair tennis for the first time, you're gonna wanna stay completely still and just try to reach to hit the ball. I recommend keep pushing, get used to having that racket in your hand when you're moving around, because it's only going to make you better later on. And when you're pushing, make sure the racket stays in your hand instead of putting it on your lap to push around. Don't get too frustrated when you start out. It's a really hard sport and it takes a lot of time to get good at it. So if you're not perfect right away, keep with it. You're gonna continue to get better and better. Some important strategies for wheelchair tennis is you want to make your opponent move more than you have to move. So you want to decide where you're going to place the ball on the court. A lot of times going into a racket sport, students think that power is the most important thing, that they need to hit hard to win, but really playing smart, using placement, using spin is going to make you a better player. So these are 2 wheelchairs. So this is what I use on a daily basis just to get around. As you can see, the wheel angle is a little bit different. The angled wheels are for speed and stability. So in my chair, if I tilt to the side, my wheels are gonna lift up and I'm gonna be really rocky, and it's gonna take me a while to do a circle. Whereas in a sports chair, you're not as rocky, you're a lot more stable, and spins are a lot quicker. This has a 5th wheel in the back. So that's to keep you from flipping backwards if you're serving or if you have to reach for a ball. The wheelchair really becomes an extension of your body. So you have straps that go on your waist, on your knees. Some people have foot straps, and that's just going to make you more connected into the chair. Each chair is gonna have 2 big wheels. Most tennis chairs are gonna have 3 caster wheels. So the caster wheels are the small wheels. You're gonna typically have 2 on the front. Most tennis chairs have 1 on the back. Sometimes they have 2 on the back. Each big wheel is connected with an axle so that they can spin at different speeds, different rates, and different times. This is what is going to propel you on the court. Now we're going to show you guys how not to hold the racket or how not to push with the racket. So with wheelchair tennis, because you're moving and hitting with your arms, you want to keep the racket in your hand at all times. That's gonna allow for less time on transitions. So sometimes when you're first learning how to push, you have athletes put their racket in their lap, they'll put it between their knees, they'll switch from their left to their right hand, and that's gonna take time away from you as you're getting ready to hit the ball. So as much as it might be a challenge, it might be tricky learning how to hold the racket and push, it's gonna make you a better player in the long run. So we're now gonna learn how to hit ground strokes. So ground strokes in tennis are your forehand and your backhand. One important thing to keep in mind with wheelchair tennis is you always want to come into the ball at an angle. So if Caden were to be hitting this forehand, he is going to come to this ball at an angle, come in contact, and then follow through over his shoulder. All right, so Caden is gonna hit a forehand here, and he's gonna recover back. He's gonna come in and hit a drive. So as you can see on all of these shots, Caden is coming into the ball at an angle. Caden, what happens if you come into the ball straight on? You get a little bit jammed up. We call that the T-Rex shot, and you don't want to be a T-Rex on the court. You want to have as much space away from the ball as possible so that you can complete a full ground stroke. Serves in tennis and in wheelchair tennis is going to be the most important shot because that is how you're going to start points. You need to have a consistent serve if you want to be competitive in this sport, but it's also a super challenging shot. So it takes a lot of practice, a lot of time. We're going to show you a couple of variations in how you can serve so that you can have success on court and at least play a couple matches with your friends. The traditional serve is used with that continental or that handshake grip. So you're gonna put your front knuckle on the top of the racket, a little bit on the right-hand side. If you can't do an overhead serve, which Jay is gonna demonstrate right here, there are a couple other variations of serves that you can try. So arm fully extended, nice and high. You're going to need to line up and make sure that all portions of your chair are behind this baseline. We also have what's called a drop feed. So for a drop feed, you're gonna angle at a 45-degree angle. You're going to need to line up and make sure that all portions of your chair are behind this baseline. Jay is gonna drop the ball in front of them, probably right around the foot plate, and then try to hit it out of the air. One important thing to note with the serve is there are very specific targets of where you want to hit. So if you're on the deuce side of the court, which is the right-hand side of the court, you want to get your serve to land in the opposite service box. So the service box is going to be the 2 squares in the front of the court. So if you're on the deuce side, you want it to get in that box diagonal from you on the ad side. If you're on the ad side, you're gonna be hitting it diagonally into the other box. So the next shot we're gonna learn is the volley. So a volley is a shot that you're going to play up closer to the net. It's gonna be a shot that you hit out of the air using the continental grip. So this is the one where it kind of feels like you're shaking your racket's hand. The shot is really, really simple, but it's very hard to execute. So Drew is gonna show how you would come into the ball for a volley, and then how you would then hit the ball. So he's gonna be coming in again at that 45-degree angle. Racket is up, making contact with the racket face a little bit open, but he's not gonna swing all that much. So when he comes in contact, the swing stops right here. On the forehand side, his palm is facing towards the net or towards his target. I'll show you how a backhand is executed, but this time his knuckles are going to be facing towards the net or towards his target. But again, it's not much of a swing. He's just gonna bring that racket towards the ball and then stop the swing. So for the volley, if Drew wants the ball to go towards me, he needs to make sure that his racket face or his strings are pointing towards me when he makes contact. As the tosser, I wanna make sure that my toss is high enough so that he can execute a volley, because for the volley, you always want your racket tip above your wrist. Bring the racket towards me a little bit more, like you're high-fiving the tennis ball. High five, there we go. Good. All right, so we are now going to introduce a drill called toss, bounce, hit. This is a drill that can be used for volleys or for ground strokes. We're gonna start with the version where the instructor is tossing to the students. It's gonna be a simple toss, hitting a forehand, and then going back to the back of the line. All right, so Jay is gonna start. I'm gonna toss Jay a forehand. They're gonna try to hit the ball over the net and then go into the back of the line. So I'm gonna toss, give themselves plenty of space away from this ball, full follow through, and then they're gonna go into the back of the line. Jillian is gonna be coming up next. She's gonna come in at an angle, hit, full follow through, and then go into the back of the line. The assumption is we as the tosser or we as the instructor want to get the ball as close to the athlete as possible. That's actually gonna create more challenge for the athlete on the court, because if I were to throw a ball right at Matt, he's gonna get jammed up. The athletes are gonna learn how to move and control their chair, so the more distance that you can give with the ball, within reason, the better it's gonna be. So the other variation of this drill is gonna be a partner-based variation. They're gonna line up on the service line and the baseline. If you're in a gym, you can just pick two lines that are a good distance apart. I'm gonna toss the ball to Jay. Jay's job is to hit a forehand in a way that I can catch the ball. All right, so the other variation of toss, bounce, hit is really just toss, hit. This is the variation with volleys. So you can see the tossers want to be able to get the ball nice and high so that the volleyers have an opportunity to hit that ball out of the air. Everybody has nice control here. This is a drill that they don't have to hit the ball very hard. So Pac-Man is a game that can be played with or without the racket. If kids are struggling with pushing with the racket, I recommend doing it without the racket. It's another movement mobility drill. The students, whether they're Pac-Man or the ghosts, are gonna all stay on the line. Pac-Man's job is to tag all of the ghosts. The ghost's job is to stay away from Pac-Man. If somebody in front of you is on the line, you can't pass them because you have to stay on the line. If you get tagged by Pac-Man, you become Pac-Man along with the original Pac-Man.